I've always hated silence in the woods, but that night, every sound felt like it was following me. I had set out that afternoon for a solo hike, hoping to clear my head. The trail was narrow and overgrown, winding through dense pines that filtered the late autumn sun into jagged shards of light. The air was crisp, smelling faintly of wet leaves and moss. I was alone, completely alone, or so I thought. At first, the hike was peaceful. The rhythmic crunch of my boots against the leaf-strewn path was almost meditative. I liked the solitude. But as the trail curved deeper into the forest, I began to notice little things, twigs snapping behind me, just faintly, in time with my own steps. I told myself it was a deer or some small animal, nothing more, but the sound didn't quite match. It wasn't random, it was deliberate, echoing my own pace. I paused to catch my breath, leaning on my trekking poles and listening. The forest seemed to hold its own breath with me. That's when I heard it clearly, a slow, deliberate step behind me. One, then another, perfectly timed to my own. I froze, straining my ears. The wind whispered through the trees, but the footsteps didn't stop. They didn't speed up. They just mirrored me. I swung my head around, expecting to see a fellow hiker or maybe a lost camper, but the trail behind me was empty. Nothing, just the trees, the fading sunlight, and the quiet rustle of leaves. I laughed nervously, convincing myself it was my imagination. People often hear things in the woods. Shadows play tricks. I shook my head and started walking again. Faster this time, my boots pounding against the hard-packed dirt. The steps behind me matched my pace perfectly. I slowed down. They slowed. I stopped. They stopped. My heart was pounding so hard. I was sure whoever or whatever was behind me could hear it. I swallowed dryly, debating whether to call out. "Hello?" My voice sounded ridiculous, swallowed by the forest. No answer. I turned again slowly, scanning the trees, the underbrush, the narrow trail that stretched out behind me. Nothing. I started to convince myself I was overreacting. Then a branch snapped sharply to my left. My stomach dropped. I spun toward it, but saw only a fallen log and the shadowy outline of the trees. I began walking again, my mind screaming at me to stay calm, to rationalize, to ignore the pounding in my chest. But I couldn't. Every step forward felt heavier, and I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting something, anything. The trail narrowed further, and I noticed the light dimming faster than it should. Clouds had gathered overhead, blotting out the sun. The temperature dropped sharply, and my breath came out in small, visible puffs. That's when I realized I hadn't heard the wind at all. No rustle of branches, no birdsong, nothing except the footsteps. Behind me, following me. I forced myself to stop, crouching behind a thick tree trunk. My hands were shaking, my ears straining for any sound. And then, just for a brief moment, I heard it. A whisper, almost too soft to catch. "Don't turn around." I froze, blood draining from my face. My mind screamed at me to move, to run, to look behind me. But curiosity, fear, and disbelief battled for control. I stayed there, barely breathing, every fiber of my body trembling. The footsteps didn't move past me. They didn't vanish. They waited. I risked a glance. Empty trail, empty trees. I wanted to run, but the path ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, dark and suffocating. I took a cautious step forward. The footsteps resumed, matching each step. Faster now, closer. Panic clawed at me. I broke into a full sprint, my lungs burning, my legs screaming. The forest blurred around me, shadows twisting with every step. I didn't dare look back. But then, over the roar of my heartbeat, I heard it my own name, whispered, not in the wind, not in my mind, but clear, deliberate. coming from behind me. I ran harder, desperate, and finally stumbled onto a clearing where the last light of day lingered. My phone, thankfully, I still had it, was in my hand. I dialed 911, fumbling with numb fingers. As the operator answered, I finally glanced back over my shoulder, and the trail was empty. No footsteps, no whisper, no shadow. Just the trees swaying silently in the dying light. I told myself it was over, that I was safe, that someone or something hadn't followed me out. But even now, when I walk alone at night, I hear it sometimes. Slow, deliberate footsteps behind me, matching my pace, waiting. I never found out who or what it was, and I'm not sure I want to. I didn't hear the cabin until it breathed, and by then, it was already too late to convince myself it hadn't been waiting for me. I went hiking that evening with the intention of being back before dark. It wasn't a complicated trail, at least. It shouldn't have been, but somewhere between the fading daylight and my overconfidence, I missed a turn. By the time I realized I was off trail, the sun was gone, and the forest had transformed into a wall of black shapes and cold air. My phone battery was already low, and the GPS signal was spotty. The temperature dropped fast, that kind of creeping cold that settles into your clothes and seems to vibrate in your bones. I tried to retrace my steps, but the woods didn't look the same in the dark. Every tree felt like a stranger. Every direction felt wrong. I kept walking, hoping to find some landmark or side trail, anything recognizable. Instead, after what felt like half an hour, I saw something impossible light. A small, warm glow flickering through the trees. At first, I thought it was a campfire, but as I stepped closer, I saw the outline of a cabin. I stopped dead. There was no cabin anywhere near that trail, at least not on any map I'd ever seen. It looked older than anything else in that part of the woods. The wooden boards were gray and splintered, the roof sagging slightly, the windows dark except for a soft amber glow coming from inside. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, as though someone had just stoked a fire. I considered walking away. I really did, but the cold was cutting through me, and the forest suddenly felt too alive, too aware. The idea of staying outside all night felt more dangerous than knocking on a stranger's door. So I approached. As I got closer, something strange tugged at me. The cabin didn't look abandoned, but it didn't look lived in either. It looked staged, like an old photograph someone was trying to make real. I knocked gently. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. But the door creaked open from the force of the second knock. A warm wave of air hit my face with smoke, something cooking and something else, something metallic and old. "Hello?" I called. My voice echoed faintly inside. I stepped in. The door slid shut behind me with a heavy thud. Inside, the cabin was lit by a fire crackling in a stone fireplace. Shadows stretched along the walls, flickering with each dart of flame. A single wooden table sat in the center of the room. On it, a bowl of soup still steaming, a loaf of bread freshly cut, and a cup of something warm, maybe tea waiting beside it. My stomach twisted, not with hunger, with dread. Someone had set a place for one person, and that person looked suspiciously like me. I backed toward the door, my fingers brushing the old metal handle, but when I pulled, it didn't budge. I pulled harder. Nothing. The latch didn't even rattle. It felt like the entire frame had grown solid around it. The fire popped loudly, making me flinch. That's when I heard movement upstairs. Soft, deliberate footsteps. I froze, staring at the staircase on the far side of the room. The steps were slow, measured, almost patient. "Hello?" I tried again, but the word came out weak, trembling. The footsteps stopped just out of sight at the top of the stairs. Silence wrapped around me like a second skin. I backed away from the door, my eyes locked on the staircase. The air inside the cabin suddenly felt thick, heavy, like breathing through a wet cloth. Then something happened that I still can't explain. A voice spoke from upstairs. "Come on up." For a moment, my brain refused to process it. It wasn't just similar. It wasn't just close. It was my voice. My exact tone. My exact cadence. I shook my head violently. No, who's up there?" The voice replied, still perfectly matching mine. "I've been waiting." Every instinct I had screamed at me to run, to break a window, to do anything. But my legs felt like they were rooted to the floor. The fire popped again, louder, as if reacting. The voice spoke once more slower this time. "You're late." Something shifted. A shadow moved at the top of the stairs. Not stepping forward, just extending, like someone leaning forward from the landing. That broke the paralysis. I lunged toward the nearest window, grabbing a wooden chair and hurling it with every ounce of strength I had. The glass shattered in an explosion of cold air and splinters. I didn't hesitate. I crawled through the jagged frame, tearing my jacket and scraping my arms, but I didn't care. The moment I hit the ground outside, I scrambled to my feet and ran, not looking back, crashing through brush and branches. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, but I didn't stop. Not once. I don't know how long I ran or how I eventually stumbled onto a ranger access road, but a patrol truck found me shivering and bleeding at dawn. When I told them what happened, they brought me back to the approximate area to look for the cabin. I didn't want to go, but part of me needed to know it was gone. We searched for nearly 2 hours. There was nothing. No cabin. No chimney. No footprint. Not even disturbed earth where a foundation would have been. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that voice whispering from somewhere just out of sight. You know the way back. And the worst part is, a small, quiet part of me feels like it's right. I still hear it sometimes, the slow rasp of a zipper sliding open in the dark, and the voice that somehow knew my name. I went camping alone that weekend to clear my head. Work had been grinding me down, and the endless noise of the city felt like sandpaper against my nerves. So I drove 3 hours north to a small, quiet state park I'd been to a few times before. I knew the trails, I knew the lake, and I knew the little clearing where I liked to pitch my tent. It was far enough from the main path that I rarely saw anyone. That isolation was usually comforting. On this trip, it became the worst mistake I've ever made. The first night was uneventful wind through the trees, the occasional distant howl, the peaceful kind of silence that makes you feel like you're the only person alive. I slept deeper than I had in months. The second night was different. The air felt heavier, like a storm was coming, even though the forecast was completely clear. I remember checking twice just to make sure. I made a small fire, ate dinner, and turned in early. For a while, I drifted in and out of sleep, distantly aware of branches, shaking in the wind, and something small rustling through the leaves. Normal forest sounds, nothing unusual. What woke me fully was the dead silence that followed. You don't realize how many small noises make up the woods at night until all of them stop at once. It's like someone hit mute on the world. I opened my eyes slowly, listening. Even the wind had stalled. My breathing suddenly felt too loud, too sharp. Then I heard it. A faint, deliberate click right outside my tent's entrance, like someone placing their fingers on the zipper pull. I froze. I didn't sit up, didn't speak, didn't move a muscle. I just stared into the dark fabric inches from my face, every nerve electrified. Another sound followed, so soft I almost convinced myself I imagined it, the zipper being tugged. Just a couple of inches. Not fast, not frantic, slow, measuring. I held my breath automatically. My heartbeat sped up so fast, it felt like it was shaking the sleeping bag. I waited for it to stop praying. Whoever was out there would realize the tent was occupied and back away. But the zipper didn't stop. It continued sliding down, teeth parting one by one. I had brought a knife, small, dull, more of a tool than a weapon, but my hand twitched toward it anyway. I didn't grab it. Grabbing it felt like admitting there was a reason to be scared. The zipper stopped halfway. Silence. Then a whisper slid through the open gap, quiet and intimate, like someone pressing their mouth against the fabric. Hey! My entire body locked up. The voice wasn't aggressive. It wasn't panicked. It was almost gentle. Too gentle. Like someone trying not to wake the rest of the house. I swallowed hard, forcing myself not to make a sound. Maybe it wasn't my name. Maybe I miss her. Then it said it again. Clearer, low, drawn out like a secret. My name. I don't care how brave you are hearing your name, whispered by an unseen stranger inches from your face. In the middle of nowhere is something your brain cannot rationalize. It just breaks you. Something brushed against the tent wall. A finger, or maybe several. Slow, dragging strokes traced the shape of my head through the nylon. I bit down on the urge to scream. Are you awake? The voice murmured. I did not answer. The fingers stopped. The zipper began moving again, this time faster. I snapped out of paralysis and lunged forward, shoving my arm against the opening to jam it closed. Whoever was out there pulled back hard. For a moment, the zipper teeth strained between us, the fabric digging painfully into my forearm. Then the tugging stopped. For several seconds, nothing. Then, not footsteps, not running, not retreating, breathing. Right outside the half-open entrance. Slow, heavy, human. I clamped the zipper shut, forcing it up an inch, despite the trembling in my hands. The breathing grew louder, like they were crouched directly in front of me. Then, softly, why'd you stop talking? I couldn't do this. I needed to get out. Keeping one hand on the zipper, I used my other to reach behind me and gather every bit of courage I had. I had one chance. One opening. The side of the tent opposite the stranger wasn't as staked into the ground as tightly. It had loosened earlier in the evening, and I hadn't fixed it. I twisted around, gripped the fabric, and burst through the back of the tent, collapsing onto the cold dirt. I didn't look at the entrance. I didn't look at anything. I just ran. Branches whipped against my face as I sprinted blindly through the dark, my flashlight still inside the tent. The forest was just shapes and shadows, but adrenaline drove me faster than I ever thought I could move. Behind me, I heard the tent shifting, rustling, something stepping over it. I didn't hear the voice again. After what felt like an hour, but was probably 10 minutes, I saw the faint reflection of my car through the trees. I practically threw myself inside, locked the doors, and peeled out of the lot so fast my tires scattered gravel. I didn't go back for my gear. I still haven't. A ranger found the remnants of my campsite the next afternoon after I called in. My tent was shredded, not just torn at the back where I escaped, but slashed in long, deliberate lines across every surface. The ranger asked if I might have had a bear problem. No bear whispers your name through a zipper. I haven't camped alone since. Honestly, I barely camp at all anymore. But sometimes, when I'm lying in bed at night, I'll hear a faint sound from the corner of my room fabric shifting ever so slightly, or something brushing the wall near where my head rests. And every once in a while, I swear I can hear a soft breath close to my ear whispering, "Are you awake?"